How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be doing another review of 3D game models from a video game, this time an indie game, but we are actually revisiting Metal Eden. Why? Because I think Metal Eden is one of the fewer games that works really well that is made with Unreal Engine 5. So first, there's a couple of things that I want you to look at from the gameplay, given that we've done a video about optimization that you should check out. It's already in the channel. And then we're going to dive into the 3D models. This time I have completely hard surface characters, which are the robot enemies from the games. And we're also going to be taking a look at some weapons. So make sure that you watch the whole video so you can look at all that information. And let's get started. Alright, so when it comes to this game, Metal Eden runs pretty well. And unfortunately for the last video that I made on this game, I had some issues with the way that I exported it, so the footage from the game doesn't look right. But the footage that you'll see now is actually did it the right way, so you can see how smooth this game works. The fact that it's a really fast-paced shooter, this is one of the moments where I highly require a game that functions at a higher frame rate. I'm doing constantly over 100 frames per second, somewhere between 110 and 120 without any frame generation. Everything that you see here is native. Everything is cranked up all the way with Lumen, with 4K, and it looks awesome. It performs well. So a couple of things that you need to see here is the environment overall is not that high poly, which is one of the things that is allowing this game to run so well. So you don't have gazillions of polygons going all around. Even though we have Nanite nowadays, there's a lot of video games that have Nanite that still have problems performing well. This game, I think it's probably utilizing Nanite, because the thing with Nanite is it doesn't matter the polygon amount of your game. You can always have a lower poly game and still use Nanite because you want to take advantage of Lumen or another ray tracing feature that will require Nanite. So there are some tweaks there you can do to use it, and as you can see, everything is working fantastically well. However, in game you can see the high resolution of the weapon that is in front of me and of the arm, as we have already discussed in the video that we did before on this game. So if you want to watch that, is on the channel. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. But another thing that really helps a lot this game is the fact that it's kind of like a corridor shooter. It does have a little bit more open areas like what you're seeing right now, which you can transform into a ball and just roll away. Actually, rolling away it's better because this environment's a little bit larger, and if you travel on foot, it's going to take you longer. It's not an open world. It's not a super explorable world. So it allows the developers to do a contained scenario that looks great and also performs fantastically well. Now, one thing that did surprise me when I was playing, and I just noticed it when I was capturing footage for this video, is this reflection that you see on screen. Now, you can see that when I move away from like the front of the camera, when I move down to the floor, the reflection changes. And this is something that for me was very surprising, because this is something that happens usually with SSR, screen space reflection. However, I'm using Lumen. If there's any one of my more Unreal savvy viewers that can tell me why this is happening, because when I'm in Engine, I either use SSR or I use Lumen. I haven't been on a time where I use both, because you set this up in the settings of the post-process volume. It is something that you set up a code. If you know the answer, please let me know in the comment sections down below, because I'll be really interesting to see what the developers may have done. Unfortunately, when I do these dissected videos, I cannot port the maps directly into Unreal for review. That's why I usually do it in Blender instead of doing it in Unreal. But this is something that caught my attention. They're doing something here that if I am looking directly at the object, it makes the reflections look pretty good and the game runs fine. But as soon as I look away, the reflection is no longer there. That being said, this is a really fast-paced game. You're supposed to be running and gunning. You're not supposed to be stopping and looking at the environment, because otherwise you die. So I guess this is a good compromise and one of the things that you have to take into account when we talk about optimization. Okay, with that being said, let's look at the models for today. All right, so here we have today's models, and as you can see, we got some cool enemy characters. These are some of the flying enemies that you saw in the footage from the beginning, and this is also one of the enemies that you get right at the very beginning. This one is very interesting because it has 2 stages, and we have the 2 stages here. And I also got some weapons for you to look at. So as usual, what you're seeing here is just the diffuse and normal maps. For those who are new to the channel, normal maps are the small details that you usually see in 3D models. And diffuse is just the color. Now this guy is only 16,000 triangles, which is not super high, but also not super low for this current generation and for how good this game looks. But because it's hard surface and nothing is deforming, you can see how this character is composed and how many things does he have all around. One of the things, usually when you see detail like this is detail that just clips into the geometry. This isn't connecting geometry because you can see from these edges right here, they're not exactly the same. So usually when you're building a 3D model like this, you build the whole and then you build the other geometry on top, because there's no reason for it to be one welded mesh, especially since it is not deforming. But one of the great things about these characters, and that is very interesting to me, is how much geometry does it has, or how much detail is made of geometry and not just normal maps. Because usually something like this is an enemy that, as you saw on the footage in the beginning, you see it like at least at this distance. Rarely you get close to it. So there's a lot of detail that is put in these characters. So if we go to the UVs, this is just one texture map. And you can see how everything is unwrapped. When things are unwrapped from hard surface, everything looks nice and neat. Let me make this a little bit bigger. But you can see a lot of the shapes that we have here. There's not a lot of deformation because, again, when you are doing hard surface, the seams are a little bit, let's say, easier to define because you put your seams whenever there is a change of angle in your model. So you can see how everything is distributed on this character. All right, let's go with this one, which is the more interesting one. This one even had a skeleton, is rigged enough because this guy walks and pounces and launches missiles at you. It's a little bit annoying because you have to take it out with the core force first in order to break this little part right here. But when it's walking, if you shoot it or you do the core punch, then you get rid of this part right here. And you have the inside. Sometimes when you talk to people about optimization, that they think is reducing everything to the mask to the smallest bit possible. Sometimes, as you can see from these models, they are pretty high. This one in particular is 99,000 polygons, which is a little bit high, but this is a more rounded model. It has a lot of rounded parts. It has cables. There's also an LOD 0, by the way, so there may be other LODs. But if we hide this part, you can see that there's also a lot of detail inside of here. And these pieces actually break apart when you kill this character. And you can see that everything in this character is geometry. You can see the ridges over here, these holes here, and it's even chamfered at the edges to better catch the light. So when I first talk about this game, this is why I mentioned that it is a hard surface dream, because all the hard surface bits and bobs from this game, when it comes to enemies, when it comes to environment, has a lot of hard surface detail that is very cool. And it's not just baked, is pure geometry. So this character is comprised of 2 materials because, like I said, the upper part of its armor, it goes away once you shoot it enough times. And as you can see, it has this piece. It has a lot of pieces that are symmetrized. If you are not familiar with my other dissected videos, this is something that we usually see in video games when you want to optimize the UV space. If you have parts that are symmetrical, one way that you can do them is put them out of the 0 to 1 space. Actually, this would be the tile number 1. And because usually textures tile, then you can have this outside and then have more resolution for your objects as opposed to having these inside. This is very different from having UDIMs, by the way. We haven't seen, and I personally have not seen any game that uses UDIM tiles. If you know any games that uses UDIM tiles, let me know in the comment section down below, because I'll be very interesting to look at that sort of game. So far, I haven't seen a game that uses UDIM tiles, which this is not a UDIM tile, this is your regular tile on the 1 space. So if we take a look at the rest of the body actually has more materials that are outside of the 0 to 1 space, because yeah, this robot's pretty symmetrical. Like both sides of the robot are very symmetrical, and this is one of the things you need to take into account when you're optimizing. So as you can see, this, just like the other, pretty cool stuff all around. Very nice hard surface geometry, even has a little bit of chamfer in some places to capture the light, but not all around. This is a lot smaller than the robot we saw previously, because again, you usually have a lot of these flying things, and I've encountered that in game. You do have more of these than you have of the other robots. But it's pretty interesting that, again, there's a lot of detail. Let's look at the UVs real quick. And you can see a little bit more simple, not a lot of things going around, but pretty neat packaging. All right, so let's look at some weapons. As you can see, we have this one right here. This one has a little bit of an emissive map that I added just to simulate this space where it fires, and it kind of looks like it has burned the metal. This is me from editing. I know it sounded like I added the map. It's a map that came with the weapon. It's just I usually don't use emissive maps on the models that I show here in Blender, but this is one of the maps that came with the weapon. It's not something that I made. But you can see, again, all that detail that goes all around this weapon. If we look at it from the place where you'd have it in the first-person shooter, you can see everything is geometry, like all of the geometrical details. You can see all the ridges inside here and all the geometry that this thing has. Now, if we look at this one, this is a more cylindrical weapon, but just in the same vein, it keeps a lot of detail. It even has, you can see how like it has like a joystick. Like if you ever seen those joysticks for PC games, it's very similar to some of the joysticks that I've seen. It has the buttons here with the nice chamfer, and you can see that the textures are very readable. There's an little emissive map that I added here too. All right, now looking at the UVs here, a little bit concerned because it could be that it was unwrapped this way, or maybe there's something off in Blender because everything is correctly placed. So you see that it's exactly one tile up, but if I were to lower this one tile, things still stay in the same place. So it could be that it was unwrapped that way for a reason, but or it could be the way that the asset was processed when I took it out. So I'm not gonna call it this way that they are actually doing this. Maybe if one of the developers watches this video can let me know why this is outside of the 0 to 1 space, because I haven't seen this before, and I'm not seeing a reason why this is outside. However, I have processed models that when I take them out, the UVs kind of like either get flipped or get outside of the 0 to 1 space and I have to bring them in. Fortunately, this one got just one tile up and still looks great. The same thing happens if I go into the barrel of the gun. So if I click on the barrel and we go into the UVs, you can see that the UVs are right here, but it's all the same. So this is one of the quirks of doing what I do to get these models. Sometimes when I process them, the UVs can get like disorganized. But again, fortunately, it was just one tile up and everything still looks pretty well and everything looks amazing. Now when it comes to the normal maps, these guns don't have much normal maps, because if we see it, let's just turn off the grid. If we see it without wireframe, you can see there's a lot of geometry going on. So Metal Eden, have you played the game? If so, let me know. What are your thoughts on the game? What are your thoughts on how this game is optimized from the footage that you've seen? Now make sure you stay tuned on the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and subscribe, because the next video is going to be another talk with Wildox, discussing whether it's better to just make your custom engine or keep using off-the-shelf engines like Unreal Engine or Unity. This is a talk that you don't want to miss. It's going to be next week on the channel, so make sure you tune in. Thank you so much for watching all the way to this point. Remember to hit that like and leave a comment. It really helps the channel get out there, because YouTube wants to see engagement. Thank you so much for watching all the way to this point, and I'll see you in the next one.